Hello pre-calculus students, and welcome to a video on solving inequalities. So this is a review of solving inequalities, which we do largely the same way as we solve equations. There's only one important exception, and that is any time that we multiply or divide by a negative number, we have to change the direction of the inequality. Of course, with equations, we don't have to worry about that because you can't change the direction of an equal sign. But with an inequality, you can change the direction of any of the four inequalities: inclusive, non-inclusive, greater than, less than. Okay, so let's look at this first one, and right off the bat, we do see a situation where we do have a negative that we have to divide by. So that's our first step here, and when we divide by that -4, we just have to remember we just get x by itself, but we change the direction of the inequality. -8 divided by -4 is 2. And so as an interval, this is x is greater than or equal to 2. So we should write 2 to infinity, not including infinity, including 2. And to also show the graph of the solution set, which means a number line, we're just going to draw a number line. We're going to put the only important number for this particular problem, which is 2. I'm going to choose a different color. You can choose a highlighter and highlight from 2 and forward. Okay, let's look at the next example. So actually, I'm going to pause the video, fill it out. You guys should pause the video and see how you do with this one. Okay, so hopefully you guys got the same answer. It's x is greater than -5, which is the interval from -5 to infinity, and there's the graph of -5 to infinity. Okay, next example. We have the variable between two numbers, and when we do this, the way I suggest solving it is that there's sort of like, instead of there being two sides to an equal sign or two sides to an inequality, there's just 3 parts, and you just have to do the same algebraic step to each part. So starting out with adding 2 to try to strip away the numbers from the x, I'm going to add 2 over here and add 2 over here. And so I'm left with -3 is less than 3x, less than or equal to 1 plus 2 is 3. And then next step is divide everything by 3. It's a +3, so I don't have to turn the direction of anything. Divide everything by 3. If it were a negative direction, I'd turn the direction. If it was a negative number, I would change the direction of both inequalities, but this time I don't have to worry about it. I get -1 is less than x is less than 1, which means that x is between -1 and 1. We have an inclusive on this side, so it's including the 1, but open on the -1 side. So when we make the graph, we're going to put both of these points on here, and we're going to put an open circle at -1, a closed circle at +1, and it's everything in between. Okay, now number D, you may or may not remember when you're doing inequalities in absolute value, when you have an absolute value that's greater than something, that means you're talking about farther from an object. It's going to be an or, some number. It's going to be an or, and it's going to be a distance from a number, like a thumbs out. I say it looks like a thumbs out. You'll see when we finish the problem, but the way that we set it up, you'll see from the graph when I say what I mean by thumbs out. But we set it up as 2x, sorry about that, 2x plus 4 is greater than 3, or it's also possible that 2x plus 4 is less than the opposite of 3. And that's pretty much how the absolute value breaks down. You'll see how this looks with the graph when we finish them up. So we're going to solve both of these. Let me just pause it and let you solve it. Okay, I left it here so we could sort of graph that thumbs out thing together. Let's graph it before we put interval notation this time. So let's put the number line. Let's put the two numbers, -7 1/2, smaller, 7 halves, -7 halves, smaller than -1/2. So it goes to the left. Just be careful with that. And we want an open circle at -1/2. So that's here. and everything greater than that, so that's like that. And then we want an open circle at -7/2. It's there, and everything less than. So there's the thumbs out. You can kind of see that as thumbs out. So when we write this as an interval, we have to write two different intervals as a union. So we have -infinity to -7/2 union with -1/2 to infinity. Okay, and if that's a thumbs out, the next one will end up being a thumbs in. So when absolute value is less than, and we're going to do it the same way, by the way. So the way that we set this up, hopefully this does ring a bell, the way that we set this up is we have both the original statement without the absolute value bars, and then change the direction of the inequality and change the sign of the number, and then we put an or between. Here we do the same thing only with an and in between. So let's put that and in between there. So we've got 2x minus 5 is less than or equal to 3, exactly how you see it, and it's also greater than the opposite of 3. Okay, again, I'm going to pause it, and this time I'm going to work out the whole thing and show you this will be a thumbs in. Okay, so there's the final solution. Notice I did an intermediate step graph here where I graphed both of the inequalities that I solved for, and then just to make it very clear, the final solution is the intersection of these two that we see up in this first graph, and that's what I graphed there, and that's just the interval from 1 to 4. Okay. Here's another one to practice. You can practice following the same operations on all three of the terms, and then I will we'll come back and compare. Okay, so first multiplying everything by 3, we get rid of that fraction in the middle part. Remember, we're trying to solve for x, so that's how I chose the 3 there. Then subtract the 2, and I end up figuring out that x is between -1/2 and 1/2 after a little bit of thinking about fractions. You can change it to decimals if you need to. And here's the graph of that, and here's the interval of that, and that's it. Okay, I hope you found this video helpful.